Look at that view. Absolutely beautiful. So yes, we got some brand new details about Crimson Desert, including some surprising things that you probably did not know from that recent play session that did happen, including this right here. If we dive deep into the menu, it actually reveals some really, really cool things and shows actually how big this game is. Not just the map size, but the content here. And we're going to go over a response from the marketing director, some really important stuff right here as well. And an important reminder regarding game footage. Plus, the exploration mechanics. This is actually really, really cool. This is what I'm talking about right here. And another take from someone that went hands-on from that 6-hour play session. A little bit of a warning as well in regards to what this game actually is. Plus, the puzzles. We have to talk about that. Some of those early hands-on impressions reveal kind of some worries about some of the mechanics, especially the early mechanics in the game. And some of these mechanics actually might be throughout the entire game as well. So I'm kind of curious to see if you guys are also concerned about this or not. But at the end of the day, there's also some hope here. So don't worry, it's not all doom and gloom whatsoever. And we're also going to talk about that enemy AI as well, because we have some interesting things being said about that one. Remember, this is only one difficulty setting for this game, which has thrown off some people, but I don't think it's too much of a concern. But we are going to dive into some of the takes about the AI mechanics as well. And yes, if you did miss it, I actually did go to China recently. And I actually got to go hands-on with the brand new Where Winds Meet expansion. If you missed that video, please check it out on the channel as well. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later in the video, because it also kind of relates to Crimson Desert as well. But we're going to go over the actual factions in the game. There was this very cool faction map that was revealed. It looks really, really cool and kind of shows the tension within the world. We're going to talk about the 3 characters having their own skill trees and a bunch of other cool stuff. And yeah, I'm going over your top comments as always. But I say we get straight into this, starting out with this one right here. All knowledge menu and high detailed merge, map, and skill controls. So hidden within this menu, there's some really cool takeaways here for sure. Because yeah, we have creatures. You'll notice 1 out of 401 creatures. Does that mean that we're going to have like 401 absolutely unique individualistic creatures? Maybe not. Maybe we'll have variations of those creatures, but this is very, very cool to see. The one big takeaway that players did notice is the boss count. 1 out of 76 bosses. And, you know, Pearl Abyss, they have not been shy about showing footage of their boss battles in the past. And I was like, man, they're showing way too much. They're showing boss after boss after boss. But now I'm understanding why they were willing to show that many boss battles, because it doesn't even scratch the surface as to how many bosses there actually are in this game. So there's going to be a total of 76 bosses right out the gates, which is absolutely wild. Also, we're going to be expecting 29 different mounts that you can actually find during your time exploring the game as well, which is pretty wild considering. Now, let's go ahead and talk about what was said recently from the marketing director at Pearl Abyss, because he was kind of like called out. He himself wasn't called out. It's just that Pearl Abyss was. So check it out right here. So what were they called out for, first of all? So yeah, the comment here is, yet they're still hiding all console footage. And the response from Will Powers of Pearl Abyss says, we're not hiding anything, and I'm sick of having to repeat myself. We'll get more into the console footage debate here in just a moment, because there might be some concerns in regards to the base PS5 version, or is there? And he says this, I've repeated myself hundreds of times, that will reveal things ahead of launch to give people adequate time to still pre-order the game for themselves. We're saying this openly, let us cook, please, and thank you, end rant. So let me know your take on this one. And Will Powers actually responded to this very Reddit thread itself, saying this: people have the right to information to make an informed purchase. Simply put, that's transparency, and that's what we're promising. But people demanding information on their timeline is entitlement, and that needs to end. I think this goes to say that hopefully we expect base PS5 console footage or breakdown crossing my fingers from the likes of like Digital Foundry. If they're willing to give like ultra PC footage to Digital Foundry, give the specs and things like that, I hope they open up eventually and give us some sort of footage to Digital Foundry or hands-on impression of what's going on with every console version ahead of release. Now, next up, related to this, we have this post here. Crimson Desert supposedly runs at around 40 to 45 frames per second on base PS5 quality mode. And then big emphasis on quality mode there. There should also be a performance mode which runs at or closer to 60 frames per second. So not too shabby. Seen this floating around and wanted to clear that up. And this comes from the source, I believe, is a Korean YouTuber as well. I'm going to try to find the exact link, by the way, to the source. I wish that was actually posted in this actual thread. Actually, no, you know what? Here is the actual source. I'll be sure to include this in the description down below for you guys. So that's good that I actually posted that right there. But anyway, this debate continues onward until we get like actual base PS5 footage. And that's all I'm going to say about that. I think that would, alleviate a lot of worries regarding what's going on with performance with the base PS5. But that's great to hear that, we're getting at least some sliver of hope right there. Now, mentioning hope and good news regarding the console versions, we've got even more details because there's kind of a little bit of a question mark in regards to some of the tech that they were utilizing. But check it out right here. Cheers to German Strands for the info, by the way. But yes, the one thing that I wanted to highlight mostly here is that recent PSSR upgrade, that's PSSR version 2.0, make it possible for Crimson Desert to hit 4K resolutions at higher frame rates. Hell yes. So we were wondering if that was going to be a thing or not. It is 100% confirmed to be really pushing the PS5 Pro visuals over the edge. I think this is going to be one of the best looking open world games we have seen by far on consoles, on PS5 Pro in particular. And of course, PC is a whole other matter. I mean, we already know it looks gorgeous by the PC footage that we have seen. But you know what? There's this like important reminder regarding game footage, a bit of a challenge to the whole situation here. And I get the concerns and why people would be challenging this. So footage captured on PC for the most part, we've seen some footage captured on PS5 Pro, but that was a little bit ago. With all the performance discourse happening in this subreddit, please remember that no console footage is available. That's partially true. We did get to see that PS5 Pro footage in the trailer, but I get what he's saying. We haven't seen like pure uncut raw gameplay demonstration that's perhaps considered like live in a way on the PS5 Pro or PS5 or even like Xbox. I don't know how many of you guys are playing on Xbox. Let me know, are any of you guys playing on Xbox? Then we have consumers should know how the product will run on their platform of choice. There's no reason not to claim people asking for it by giving not even footage, just numbers for quality and performance modes, for example. So I do understand. Stay alert on this topic. So let me know what side of the fence you're leaning, if you're like kind of worried about what's going on with the console or not, or if you're pretty much like, hey, I'm good to go. I think I'm just going to keep my pre-order and yeah. Next up, I really want to talk about this from the brand new gameplay footage that we did saw. There was one thing that time and time again that was, coming up in the previews is that exploration. The mechanics here are just beautiful. So check it out. Difficult to evaluate the story. Probably spent over 2 hours just getting used to side elements, controls, combat, and puzzles. Since those who played the demo only experienced the first 4 hours and the last 2 hours, plus the cutscenes, it's doubtful whether a proper assessment of the story is even possible, whether for better or worse. However, one thing that we have heard in terms of, I guess you wouldn't say it's exactly story, is the dialogue itself, is the voice work. The voiceover work is excellent. I have heard that once again over and over again, and that was one thing that I was particularly worried about, considering, Pearl Abyss has made MMOs and things like that. Sometimes story just takes a backseat in MMOs and it's not important whatsoever. But it's so good to know that at the start of these previews, the 6-hour impressions is out through and through, from the main story quest all the way to random NPCs that you are meeting along the way. The voice work is superb. Next up, we have this. That's why the open world exploration is what I noticed. Quests seem to progress through random encounters and events trigger so naturally. Approaching NPCs in response to their sounds sets things in motion, and the NPC animations are great. The voice acting is also superb. Really liked that it's not about NPC just standing still waiting for players to give out quests. The after image effect from the lantern and seeing flashbacks by looking at those after images through the helmet also look intriguing. Hell yes. And this is from a Korean YouTuber. And he showcases several clips here how you'll stumble upon someone here and you might have to help them. This will start an entire quest line. And that's just one example of the dynamic nature of this game. But if I could relate it to another game that I played a little bit more recently, is Ghost of Yotei. And when you actually stumble upon a random encounter in that one, it could lead into, in my opinion, a pretty in-depth side quest that can last for about 25 minutes to a half hour. That has been very, very surprising in that game. And it kind of looks like they're going after the same thing with Crimson Desert, which is something I absolutely love. It makes exploration matter a lot more when you have kind of like story reasons to propel you forward through the environment. But yeah, we got to talk about this one. This guy made a very good review on Twitter. So what did he say? But yeah, this one comes from Black Okage. Check him out here. And he has a very interesting take here and a little bit of a warning as well. So let's get into it and see what he had to say here. So he says this: recently, I got some hands-on time with Crimson Desert, and below are my first impressions, as well as some of the gameplay I was able to capture. Now, Crimson Desert is a good game, but it won't be for everyone. I know the devs claim this is an RPG, but I don't know any other way to describe this game other than a hardcore action RPG. That sounds badass to me, at least. Now, he says this: if you need the yellow paint to know where to climb, this game isn't for you. I'm absolutely thrilled to hear that. I am so done with the games that have all the yellow paint everywhere that just like tell you where to climb, where to go 100% of the way. They don't give you any sense of discovery yourself whatsoever. So this right here, there sounds like there's very little in the way of hand holding, which has been kind of also a problematic thing for some players. We'll talk about that here in just a moment as well. But check it out. But if you love getting lost in a whimsical world with a boatload of content, this game is going to be right up your alley. I think that what impressed me most is the attention to detail. So a lot of content, but still that detail that we really, really want. There's so many little things the dev team took into consideration that I think people who enjoy being immersed into a world are going to appreciate. Even if you aren't that person on a basic level, I think most will enjoy the game's combat. It's fair, fluid, it's fast, fluid, and provides a ton of player expression with its deep skill tree. That's something we've heard many times before. The world of Pyral is vibrant, large in scale, and full of life. It's easy to get lost off the main quest line as there's always something to do and someone to speak to. Some people might view that as a good or bad thing, but I think the takeaway here is that if you are a player that gets overwhelmed by open world games and you're like, God, there's just absolutely too much to do, I think it's best, at least my opinion, to focus in on the story and really enjoy that until you might hit a difficulty wall. And then you might have to find something to help you push past that with the help of the open world itself. So yeah, in that way, I think the game becomes a lot more enjoyable for those that become overwhelmed by open world games. Now we have, as an example, being I was wandering through the open world and encountered a distressed woman seeking help. I agreed to follow her, only to find out moments later she was with a gang and they were trying to backdoor me. That had me cracking up. I think if the open world is consistently full of fun, unique side content like that, and the main quest line is fire, the game has a lot of potential to impress. It's just a shame that I didn't get to spend more time with the main quests. I kept getting sidetracked with cool stuff to do in the open world. For me, that sounds freaking awesome. So I can't give you much insight into that. What I can say is after opening section, there's next to no tutorials in the game. The puzzles are hard and the default controls are a bit clunky. You will be getting lost. And I could see that frustrating some people who aren't interested in a challenge. That's why I mentioned earlier that this is a hardcore RPG. It does not do a lot of hand holding. Again, I think a lot of you guys might actually really enjoy the sense of discovery, But that leads into this discussion. I've seen this mentioned about the puzzles. Check it out, puzzles. This game looks great, but I hate puzzles in games. I see a lot of the reviews, or it should be previews, talk about puzzles, and that's a bit hard. I hope they aren't required to enjoy the game. And, it looks like, the entire sky section of the game appears to be a puzzle related. So I don't think there's any escaping them. And considering that we've also heard that the game is built off of The Legend of Zelda and the Zelda games, which are very puzzle intensive in some cases, then I think puzzles are going to be a way of life in Crimson Desert. Now, I have seen some other takes about this, some other previews from Inside Games. I watched their videos, and then also Skill Up. They had the same issue with the puzzles. They mentioned it in their previews that, they really struggled figuring out what in the hell was going on. And then there were others that did not. They were able to easily figure it out within 5 minutes. So is this a game mechanic thing, or is this the fact that they were at an event and, maybe the event environment didn't help? I think that at its core, based on how many people are actually talking about this, it seems to be a game mechanic thing. So I'm wondering if you're going to be looking up some guides along your journey in Crimson Desert. I'm hoping that it's not too convoluted and too difficult to understand what's going on, especially at the very beginning of the game. That right there will perhaps throw players for a loop, at least some of you guys. So that's honestly a little bit of my worry. And I think that Pearl Abyss might be a little bit worried about that as well, given a few of the takes from these hands-on impressions. Now, we have this one right here. Because of that, I predict you and your friends will be sharing tips, yes, and tricks similar to when Elden Ring first launched and nobody knew what they were doing. I don't know, maybe that's a goal, to build a sense of community where players are communicating with each other. It could be, but some people might not like that at all. And then we have, if you are a patient person and take the time to learn the game systems, I promise you will be able to put together some awesome combos that will make you feel like the main character. My biggest fear for this game is that I won't finish it, not because it's a bad game, but I can just tell from my brief time with it that it's next level massive. As someone who's been gaming for 30 plus years, it's very rare you'll hear me say a game was overwhelming, but this game is. For people who lack a ton of free time, I could see that being a turnoff, because once again, the game doesn't give much direction or tutorials outside the opening area. And again, my opinion is if you are having a time constraint with this game, I recommend just sticking to the main path. It sounds like it's going to be absolutely massive anyway. In the case of Red Dead Redemption 2, dear God, that game was a monster game. And even its main path, I think, clocked in over 60 plus hours, which is crazy. We'll see what this number is for this game, of course. But we have, not to mention, this game could be big just for the sake of being big. I was curious to know how much of the content was engaging versus open world bloat. Hard to tell, because I only got a few hours with the game. This is going to be interesting. Right now, again, this is what I describe as the honeymoon phase of Crimson Desert. Will the game still entertain in hour 50? What about hour 70 to, hour 100 even? Now, I'm going to say this. If I get 100 hours out of this game, that's good for me. That's how I feel about it. I will be very, very happy. If the game starts feeling redundant after that, it's still kind of a bummer. But 100 hours for a $70 game, that's legit. That's my personal take on that, especially if it's through the main quest line and stuff like that, and that's entertaining. Now we have, I'm not sure if the final build will differ from the vertical slice we played, but what I can tell you is that on the build we played, I wasn't impressed by the AI. Oof, really? Several times I attacked enemy camps and they never reacted to me attacking them. They just stood there and took it, which made the world feel less alive. Okay. So yes, this is actually kind of a perfect segue into the discussion about the AI, of course. So kind of wasn't expecting that take right there. And this also brings me into two elements that I want to discuss: the enemy AI and bugs. So back to some of those previews that I was talking about. Inside Gaming, they mentioned that they ran into several different bugs. And some of them were actually pretty game breaking. Overall, from what I could see from the previews, though, is that bugs were pretty minimal by everyone's standards. However, Inside Games in particular was really like they ran into some actual roadblocks where they had to actually reload a complete save. So I'm mentioning this because I'm going to let you guys know at the beginning of this game's life, I would expect several patches to be rolling out. I would not expect the game to be absolutely perfect in regards to glitches and bugs and things like that. So just a little bit of a warning there. Now, when it comes to actual enemy AI, this is an interesting take here. And yeah, let's talk a little bit more about the enemy AI because we have this take here. The enemy AI is being very aggressive. So I've seen occasional comments saying the enemy AI is stupid, but I recommend watching multiple videos rather than limiting yourself to just one. For example, there was a story about a YouTuber who complained that the puzzles weren't intuitive and ended up getting help from a staff member. However, the instructions were clearly written in the top left corner. And while other YouTubers had no issues, only specific ones struggled significantly. That's kind of interesting. Despite this, people who believed that YouTubers' words and started worrying about the puzzles. Some people said the enemy AI also looked stupid based on a certain video, but this YouTuber said the enemy AI is smart, making the combat quite challenging. So we're seeing various opinions right here. And yeah, the AI actually looks legit right here in this video. They look like they're willing to get in it. They're not like waiting their turn, as you can see right here. This looks actually legit. So it kind of makes me wonder, like, is this because they have roamed into an area that's a bit tougher? Well, there's a response here that's saying, hey, you know what? This is actually the beginning area. So that shows that the AI is actually kind of challenging here. I think this is going to be one of those cases where you're going to see a hit or miss situation with some of the AI. Again, this might be stuff that requires patchwork. But yeah, overall, it seems like the AI is very reactive and they kind of like go after you pretty quickly, as you can see here, even from that footage right there. And the AI is going to be differing depending on what part of the world you're actually in. Remember, the AI does not scale with you. They're going to be easier in sections of the world as you, I guess you would say, level up. There's not a leveling system in this game, but as you get like better gear and that sort of thing, you're going to become more powerful. And then an enemy AI that was previously kind of tough might be pushed over. So that's something to consider and remember with this game, but it gives you a sense of progression and power. That's something to note. But I think this situation here is going to be like a wait and see situation. I have a feeling just like the bugs and the glitches that are kind of like where one session you're not going to experience any, and then other sessions like Inside Games, you're going to experience maybe a bunch. I think that might happen maybe just maybe with the AI. We'll have to wait and see. But again, my assessment from what I am hearing is that we're going to have some patches at the launch of this game. And that's to be expected for a game of this size, of course. But yeah, you know, he did mention it was 3 or 4 times I encountered this poor AI, which is a red flag for me because I only got 2 hours of hands-on time with this game. So you can see the diverse opinions just from like this 6-hour play session. Mind you, in those 2 hours, a good portion of it was just me working my way through the prologue and the early quests, so I didn't spend a lot of time in the open world. What I'm trying to get at is the janky AI was very noticeable. It wasn't something that took too long to find. I will say when the game works great, it's great. But when I tell you the AI was bad at times, it was bad. Oof. It reminded me of this dumb NPC often found in Ubisoft open world games. I'm not looking for this to be a Souls game, but I want some level of challenge in the combat. Hopefully that stuff gets patched out. Yeah, that's what I think will happen in time. That being said, I'm confident in saying this game is good. I just didn't have enough time with it to determine if it's good or great. So at the very baseline level, he's saying it's good. So I think that's great news. And then he highlights, of course, the pros. Deep skill tree, combat. And I think we've been over a lot of this. Fire OST, that's great to hear. Soundtrack is great. No fall damage. I'm actually happy about that one. And yeah, he wraps up by highlighting the pros and the cons here. So let's get into this. So pros, combat makes you feel like a demon. Deep skill tree, vibrant world, solid voice acting, fire OST. So great. Awesome. The music is apparently really good. The details, trust system, you can commit crimes, etc. No fall damage, which is a bonus. Puzzles are creative and challenging. Game doesn't hold your hand. Some people will hate this. You can swap in and out of third and first person at will. Wasn't able to explore much of how that changed the game, but it's nice that it's an option. Easily over 100 hours of content. Some will hate this though. Yeah, some people might want that more focused experience, which I think you can fine tune that yourself. And then we have the cons. So let's get into that. Clunky controls. Default controls take some time to adjust to. I hope there's other control schemes at launch. Okay, so I've heard that as well. So yeah, he's not the only one saying that about the controls, by the way. But then again, there's some people that are saying that the combo system is absolutely amazing, that it's something that they love. And it's a deep system that is tough to learn, and you're wanting to absolutely master it. Now, we have inconsistent AI. We went over that. Long load times. Oh, we were playing on PCs, but I don't know the specs. I did not expect that one. Your horse can faint, and when they do traveling the large world wasn't as fun, and I couldn't figure out how to get him back. Most likely a skill issue. Okay, so we'll see how that one works. That's actually pretty, I didn't know that was a feature. Early stamina management is OD. Early game is, it's easy to drown and get tired running. I'd imagine it gets better late game, but early game, it's frustrating trying to explore. Camera takes some getting used to in combat. Sometimes it's too close and other times too far. Early arrows have no impact. Felt useless, hoping later upgrades fix that. So yeah, hopefully there's some options here to, of course, get in here and have some long range combat. Maybe you guys want to try to kind of build a long range character, but I think that this game is obviously going to be very, very melee centric for sure. There's one mechanic, by the way, that did remind me of another game that I've been playing. It says learn how to fish by observing NPCs fishing, and they show this little of course video here, which is very cool, that this is how you're going to pick up some of your skills as you go. And that definitely does remind me of Where Winds Meet, which, by the way, shout out to the Where Winds Meet dev team. I was actually flown out recently to China, went hands-on with their brand new Hushi expansion, which is absolutely beautiful. Remember, this is like a completely free game. The expansion is free, totally worth checking out right now. A great segue into Crimson Desert. If you're waiting for Crimson Desert, like pretty much everyone is, this game will absolutely hold you over. There is 100+ hours of new content in this free expansion, which is just absolutely crazy. My trip to China was amazing. I got to do some comparisons to actual China to what they pulled off in Where Winds Meet. And again, like, I'm absolutely stunned that this game is free. It still blows my mind that they've been able to make a game like this on this scale for free, and they just keep updating it and updating it. So yeah, really excited about this one. So check it out. Check out my video on the channel. You'll get to learn about the brand new open world regions that are in the brand new Hushi expansion and a bunch of other cool stuff. So check it out. But anyway, back to Crimson Desert, because we also have this reveal here, which is the merging of the map. So you piece together all the maps together to show how the factions are laid out throughout the world. And this is actually very, very cool. It goes to show that there's, in my opinion, just from seeing this, how much friction there is going to be in this game world. At least I'm hoping that that's the case, where there's these kind of like clashes happening maybe between the factions that you could stumble into. And I'm hoping that there's also some really cool story stuff related to that as well. But yeah, I guess he pieced it together from Joraptor's video too. So yeah, kudos to him for doing that, to J-Dog Crane for pulling that off, because that gives you a really good idea of what to expect. But anyway, yeah, all three characters also have their own skill tree, by the way, if you did not know. So it says to improve each skill, you have 5 times to upgrade it to reach maximum, like health, damage, etc. And he shows, of course, this kind of like zoomed in. We could zoom it in here. And yeah, that's actually going to be a lot of fun to be able to upgrade your, I guess you would call them, I call them companions. I don't think they can exactly fight alongside you. They are playable at any time throughout your exploration in the open world. Main quest, different story right there. And then I wanted to highlight this footage here, how you can kind of like slingshot off of, check this out, literally pull a tree and slingshot off of it. This is absolutely badass, dude. I cannot wait to do this for the first time. That is going to be an absolute blast. I imagine you could rotate that into being that flying mist thing, which that was a fail right there. But anyway, you know what time it is. It is time to go over your top comments. Remember, leave a comment down below. It can end up right here in a future video. So let's do this. So yeah, I did post about the release times in my previous video. And the bummer is that's not like dropping midnight right on March 19th, which I like a midnight release. And so does AI, okay, who says not having it drop at midnight was a bummer. I should have checked that before I took off work. Damn. Ouch. And then we have, I want to point out that Shift Up also went from a gacha monetized, mostly visual novel game in Nikki, and then released a single player game known as Stellar Blade. A company diversifying is not an automatic bad thing. What a great point right there. So that is such an excellent point. And I was talking about how, you know, previously this game company right here, Pearl Abyss, they worked on Black Desert Online, which has some controversy with it. And people are worried that that will carry over into Crimson Desert. Yeah, that probably isn't going to be the case. They probably want a really good single player game, you know, in their library. Then we have Max Dude only played the Boss Rush demo. Of course, yeah, which was very limiting, you know, compared to the other demonstrations. And Black Space Engine kicking Unreal to the curb. Oh boy, yeah. And I think Unreal also notices this sort of stuff. That's why they're doing updates, big updates to how that engine streams for the next big open world game, especially games coming from CD Projekt Red and the like. They have to fine tune that. And we have, I really want to be excited for this game. I miss the days when I would count the days to a release, looking up any info I could find about the game. Now, because of recent releases of dog shit games that promise the moon and stars, I just can't. I want and hope this game will deliver the goods, but now it's a wait and see. It's just not the same anymore. Dude, I can feel your comment. Man, that one hurts. Yeah, I know what you're saying, though. To go back in time when things were simpler. But yeah, we've been screwed over so many times by greed, these greedy asshole corporations. And it's definitely put a new perspective on, you know, hype levels. Keeping the hype levels in check. Even for this game, I want to keep my hype levels in check. There have been games that I've played in recent memory where I start playing, I'm like, oh my God, this game's amazing. I'm in hour 8. I still think, wow. And then something happens like by hour 15. I'm like, I just can't continue playing this game. What happened? And a lot of times what happens is the story just is so boring and not interesting. I'm like, I can't play this anymore. Even if the gameplay mechanics are good, even if it's excellent graphics and the world is interesting, if like the story is extremely lackluster, I have such a problem with that. But anyway, there it is. The latest happenings around Crimson Desert. Stay tuned here for more news and updates. Have you guys covered. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all next time. Take care.